Hi, Julian.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, sweet. How's it going?
All good. We enjoy the film, and we have also Jacob here. Jacob, the channel too. I don't know if you watched that or not. We have it online, right? Yeah, cool. So, okay, I learned that we only have 15 minutes. I know that it's late, but I have several questions. I wrote a lot of keynotes. I really enjoyed that. Before we start this program, I said that it's like bouncing yourself between the subject and the body and the subject was for me was full of joy. So, and being part of Mises for me is like a constant learning. And while I was watching your both project, is that how do you maintain the threshold of chaos of fragments for both of you and constructing and creating your project? So, Jacob, maybe you want to go first.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there was definitely that like a structure that like preceded the idea for this film. It was a pretty like winding journey. The film started off on a much smaller scope. I initially just wanted to make a portrait of this great DIY music venue in Chicago. It was run by a friend of a friend called the Gay House. It was this kind of hyper pop and electronic queer venue, and yeah, I had set out to make a film about that. I was just really interested in, I guess, the spectatorship of this venue. Was kind of have this idea to make a film about music without music, and just wanted to really focus on the way that kind of was embodied and expressed by the concert goers. And set out to do this, and oddly enough, chose the night in which this venue was hosting the collective of satanic SoundCloud rappers, and they were celebrating a satanic holiday. And it was also the night they were raided and shut down by like a ton of Chicago police officers. And, yeah, very little of the footage from that night actually came out very well. Yeah, well, that was the start of it, and it's just kind of inspired me to keep in touch with some of the folks in that scene and continue the process further. And yeah, got to know a couple of the musicians, followed them around a couple of different venues, and just sort of follow these threads of their, the antagonism between this music scene and the police, and the sort of ideas and mythologies that emerge out of that amongst the concert goers and amongst the artists. And yeah, but to go back to the question of like the structure with fragments. Yeah, I think the fact that like very little of that first night came out very well was sort of a reminder for me that like it's impossible to be sort of comprehensive in this kind of portrait, and to just embrace and be able to kind of cobble together and sort of free associative aesthetic that like I guess points to a lot of the gaps in my own knowledge and my own visibility. Yeah, it was just a sort of important reminder. I think and Bolex really helps concretize that idea. I mean, just there's always going to be something that you miss. There's always going to be something that doesn't come out well. You have to embrace that more sort of collage structures.
Thanks. And Julian, so same question. How do you maintain this threshold of chaos and creation in your piece? Because it was full of fragments. And constructing these fragments for me was like while I was watching. It was very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, the answer is like kind of simple about in terms of navigating that chaos or those fragments. The way that I kept everything straight was just the kind of was through genre, through the kind of narrative logic of detective stories and mysteries, which are pretty strictly linear. So because I felt that I had that as a spine, and linear in the sense of that, just like in detective stories, when you find a clue, it always leads to another clue. So you're moving, of course, in a line, and so that kind of provided a spine for the film, even as it went in all these other kind of fragmentary directions.
Thanks. And my next question is that in your both project, there were a lot of noise, pauses, glitches, also like so many like darkness, silence, and chaos. So what is this role in your piece? And like for me, it was like you both were like exploring reality and truthness, right? The like these cues were coming out of blurriness and uncertainty. So can you each of you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I guess noise became a real central theme of the film. Kind of after this first attempt to,
One more thing.
Sure.
Also, the way that you control the camera, you were so close to the bodies. It was like blurry bodies, not full body moments. Yeah, I just wanted to. It was very impressive.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, I guess I'll kind of speak to that on the sound end first. Like, after this sort of like failed attempt to document this venue initially, I was kind of just scraping through any kind of remaining archives of this space that still might exist. You know, I was barely able to shoot anything before the police raided this place, and like a lot of it took them out. So coupled together a lot of Instagram photos that were taken at that venue and collaged them onto a film strip, and that's the direct animation you see at the end of the film. And we also found some like concurrent police scanner audio, which have these like really just kind of like, I mean, I found this weird website that just logged like obsessively all these different like I think like half hour by half hour like CBD scanner audio, and there are like a few like brief mentions of the show, just to hear some at the beginning, just like a large concert at 29 Photograph Campbell, like things like that. Then I found like shortly after, like I guess what would be around the same time that was happening, was just pure noise, pure feedback. It sounded like something I kept the radio on by accident. It was this really just harsh discordance, like it just sounded like ready-made noise music or something. But I was really compelled by this, and it not that I think it's any sort of like causal relationship, but like it was kind of this beautiful coincidence with these moments I witnessed of these celebrations persisting, and the like presence of these things like meant to evoke fear, like you know the sirens and the lights, people kind of like reveling in that in a way, and just like you see people just continuing to just sort of like dance and celebrate and like treating these things as no different than the lights and the sounds of the venue and the music. And yeah, so that was kind of the impetus of using like that scanner noise, like in a, I guess, subversive way. But yeah, I guess the way that connects to like the proximity you were talking about. Yeah, I think there were a lot of moments where being in the midst of the action, yeah, it was so close that things weren't really captured any sort of high fidelity, and just kind of like broke into this abstraction. And I think that was like something that I just chose to maintain when the turret of my Bolex gets knocked out of place, and just all these like lensless exposures of the venue. It was just this constant reminder that like any attempt to like, you know, really just, I don't know, access any sort of interiority, which is met with opacity, and it's not something that the camera can really access. So I think noise kind of just gestures towards, you know, that which I couldn't really capture, but that which wasn't really available.
And also for you, Julian, your film is about art forging and being perfect in authentic way. And then you talked about image in your projects, but also at the same time, a lot of noises, glitches, moments that they were like, even text on the screen was not like perfect, clean, crisp image, but it was more noise, like the static that you chose. And as I mentioned and said, like you were exploring and investigating the reality of reality coming out in a very, very pixelated moment. So I'm very interested in this form in your both project. How do
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I
Go ahead.
mean, it's maybe it's fitting that I can only hear like every other word you're saying, but I think I got the question. I mean, I think it for me it just came down to the tension or the paradox of like trying to extract meaning from things, from objects, from text, from images, and I mean it's kind of an overwrought idea where I wanted to use it in a pulpy way, I guess. But this idea that like um, if you look at something very very closely, or you look at it over and over again, then it kind of evaporates or breaks down into abstraction, which is meaningful in another way, I suppose.
Yeah, very interesting. Thanks. And so, as long as we have a very limited amount of, if there's any question, audience, any question? Yes.
My question is for Julie. My question is, much of this work was fiction, and how much of it was real, and how would you even define real?
Say that one more time. How much was fiction and how much was real?
Yes, and if in your definition of real.
Right. Well, I'll give you a kind of a roundabout answer. I would say Fawn Ma does not exist. I invented her, and the jumping off point at which I started inventing the fiction was that I had found out about this real art forgery scheme and these real FBI documents that kind of speculated about the identity of this forger has never been found. And and like the starting point for me was inventing that character, I guess. But then I constructed that narrative in a way that also incorporated real events in my life. Like I had begun writing as I was like moving to Los Angeles and feeling stuff like that. And I had also like originally invented my character to be kind of like a Marlowe, confident, fast-talking detective. And as I was making the film, I realized it was more interesting to like to channel my real emotions through that character rather than have that character be a better version of myself. I thought it would be better for it to for the character to for me to relay my actual anxieties through the character. But then I also like discovered a perhaps more interesting like operation in terms of like fiction and artifice, in that I had like constructed the film to construct it around material evidence and objects. And essentially what I discovered was that because I had built this fiction, then the fiction began to produce real evidence in a way because it was about me. So for example, like because the fictional Julian has to go to Prague or whatever and walk across this field, then I had to go do that. And like my footprint is really there and it's like real evidence, or like I really have that like the plane ticket is real and stuff like that. But it was a fictional narrative that demanded that those material objects to like exist, I guess.
I think one more question. All right, so we are wrapping up, and thank you so much, Julian, and thanks, Jacob, and have a good night, everybody. And
Thank
see
you.
you all tomorrow. Thanks, JJ.
Thank you.
Thank you all.